Hello, this is Amanda from Willow Pip. I have recently been asked to do a video or an update sharing some of my tips of how I run my candle business while making my full-time job work, while making my family life work. So today I wanted to provide a bit of an update, some of the things that work well for me, and just share how I try to make it all work. So for those that may not know, I run a soap and candle business out of my home in Southampton, Ontario, but I do this part-time. So I have a full-time career. I have 2 children, a husband, a dog, and 2 cats. So a very busy life. And I run my candle business really obviously on my off hours. So my corporate job, my day job, is Monday to Friday, more business hour type hours. So that really leaves me evenings and weekends. But honestly, I will say most of my soap and candle making, bath bomb making, etc. time is usually on a weekend, and usually a half day on one of the mornings. So often it's a Sunday morning, just the way it works for me and my family, but sometimes a Saturday morning. In short, I just make it work to the best of my ability. There's no magic recipe for it. I try to be very honest with any of my retailers or people that buy wholesale for me. So what I mean by that is, if I receive an order, I'm very realistic about the time it will take me to have that order ready. I do try to have most of my products on my shelf ready to go for the most part. Obviously, I can't anticipate every single order, and I'm certainly not going to stock, mass quantities. So if somebody puts in a really, really big order, that's going to have to adjust my turnaround time. However, I keep my website up to date with my quantities of stock as best I can. Or I'll set it to kind of an unlimited stock or a higher stock number for something like candles, which I can turn around quite quickly. But it's just all about being honest and realistic. So the other day I received a wholesale order from one of the local stores in Port Elgin that I stock, and I knew I had to pour a couple of the candles for what she was asking for. And then I know it takes me some time to, put together an invoice, add labels to the candles. My candles take a week cure time. So I have to factor all that in, and I add a bit of buffer time. So the turnaround time I gave for this wholesale order was 2 weeks. And I say it in a very polite way. I, of course, use language like, would this time work for you? But people realize that, you are a small business, and they don't, and that you're making products by hand. They're high quality. They do understand you're not Amazon for the most part. Now, online sales might be a little bit different because they don't know you, but I will say, for any direct sales that I get for consignment, so adding my products into resale stores or wholesale, those are, personal relationships really that I have gotten to know that store owner over time. They trust me, I trust them, and I'm just very honest about, the turnaround time. So that's one tip I can share. The other tip is, I make when I want to make, and I don't when I don't. So I do try to make things in a higher volume, so that if I'm, let's say I get an order for shower steamers and I'm completely out of shower steamers, I will not make just the quantity of shower steamers for that one order. I already know what sells and what doesn't sell, and roughly, quantities, so that helps a bit. But I will make, more than that one order, and then save the rest, so that the next time I do a market, the next time I get an order online or a restock for one of my retail customers, I'll have a bit of a grace or a buffer there. So that's a really huge tip. You can see actually right now, yesterday I poured a whole bunch of candles, trying to get a good shot in for you folks. But this was me being in the mood to pour candles. I didn't have a specific order for these candles. I keep one box on my shelf, a quantity of 12 for each of the candle fragrances that I have on my website. And so I try to always have 12 of each fragrance selections just sitting on my shelf waiting order. And that relieves a tremendous amount of pressure for me. So if I get an online order or other type of order, I have a base quantity to pull from. Now I will say my Shopify website, the online orders, those ones are a little bit more stressful, if you will, because you have to commit to a certain turnaround time. Customers expect it. I expect it when I order from other people's websites. So that's the piece I would say be very careful on. Set your quantities appropriate for what you are comfortable turning around on, and adjust it as you live and learn. With my soap, it takes, any soap maker knows, or if you're new to soap making, you don't know, that's okay too. But, soap takes cure time. So my soaps cure for about 4 weeks. And so I do make those, like I batch my soap as well. So on my drying racks right now, I have my soaps in bins and they're curing. And so, but the point is I batch those in advance as well so that I have a quantity on hand. And if I sell out, I go to my Shopify site and I'll zero out the quantity. It will show sold out on my site. And so if I'm getting any type of, online order, that will obviously, mitigate getting an order for something that you can't stock. But if I do happen to make an error or I'm not fast enough to get to my website to zero out that quantity and somebody does order a soap, let's say, that obviously if I'm totally out of, I would not have available in time, to be reasonable for that order, I'll email that customer and just explain, I'm very sorry, this soap has just sold out. I would happily refund you, or of course, if there's another soap that I could fill your order on, I'd be happy to do so. And I have never once had somebody being frustrated with me. Again, on my website, I'm very clear that all the products are made by hand, and that's a small business. So you just be very clear, and people are very reasonable back. I would also say the way that I make this business work is I love it. So for me, it's odd on a weeknight. I will be honest. It's odd on a weeknight that I'm working on my candle business, or if I am, it's maybe a really small thing like printing soap bands and cutting soap bands. Just little things here and there. But when I have the energy or the time, it's what I want to do. So, some people love working out. Some people love, painting, knitting, whatever. But this is what I love to do. So it's not a challenge for me when I have free time, and if I have the energy. But when I have free time, there's always something that I'm interested in. And it may not be, the time. I may not be in the mood to make soap, but I bet you I'll be in the mood to make candles. Or maybe I'm not in the mood to do any type of recipe making, but I am also I love to be organized. So I'll start to kind of prep things. Like I was saying, I'll pre-cut my candle bands, or rather my soap bands, and get those ready to go, because I know I'll use them eventually. And I'll just kind of pre-prepare some things. Another example of that is for soap making. I'll show you behind me here. I have lye pre-made. So this is my lye water. So this in a jar here is my pre-prepared lye water that I make in advance of soap making. So if for soap making, you make the soap with lye water, but when you first do that, it gets really, really hot, and so it takes a lot of time to wait for that lye water to cool down to appropriate temperature for you to start making. And so sometimes that can take about 2 hours. So I pre-prep my lye water. I make it in advance. That's been sitting there now for about 2 weeks. Both of those are good for two loaves of soap. And that just helps me so that when I am in the mood for making soap, or I have the time to make soap, I have part of the process already done. I will also do the same thing with my oils. I will take a container and pre-measure out all my oils, and that might be something I do on a weeknight. So I have all of my containers here. If you can see, these are the big bulk containers that I'll pour my liquid oils into, and I'll pre-measure everything out and just get it ready in advance. And I might do that on a weeknight, you know, before, I might do that on a Wednesday, knowing that on the Saturday or Sunday I want to make a bunch of soap. So it's just, I just try to break it down to these sort of little steps that I might only have 30 minutes on a Wednesday, but let's at least get the lye water ready, or let's at least measure all my liquid oils and just set them out. So, you know, I hope that that framework kind of helps a little bit. I will see that the key with everything is it is my passion. Like I really do love it. So I try to give advice to new soap or candle makers that, you know, try it in small batches, of course, before you ever consider opening a business, test it, but really try to think through, is this something I really love to do? Like when I wake up in the morning, am I just excited about it? Am I watching, you know, YouTube videos all the time? Am I Google searching for recipes? Am I, you know, is this just something that I, you know, when I retire, I would just love nothing more in a perfect world? You know, this would just be what I would be doing with my free time. And if the answer to all that's yes, I think the rest of this sort of takes care of itself. I hope that helps. There's really no other secret sauce or ticket that I can think of. I think a lot of it comes down to personality. I am fairly motivated. I am an A-type personality. I am organized. But again, I would say like 95% of it is just my passion and love for making and making these specific items. I hope this helps anyone out there that's, you know, wondering how to fit it in, how to do it. If you have any more specific questions, let me know. I love the questions. It was actually a YouTube comment question asking for me to make this specific video. So I really appreciate that. It lets me know, you know, what you guys want to see. And I hope this helps along your soap or candle making journey. Thanks very much. Please like for more.